The U.S. is imposing new sanctions on Russia over the poisoning of the double agent Sergei Skripal and his daughter in the UK. The measures are scheduled to go into effect around August 22nd, according to the State Department. The U.S. is going to be placing sanctions on Russia for the Skripal poisoning, despite the fact that there is no evidence that Russia was behind the poisoning whatsoever. It's very clear that the Novichok poison was used, but there is no evidence whatsoever that Russia was actually involved in it. And the fact that it happened only a few kilometers away from where the poison was being kept in the UK, despite the claim that the UK government claiming that only Russia has it. And meanwhile, several other countries have come out saying it as well. Essentially, there's no actual evidence that Russia was behind this in any way, shape, or form. Yet, somehow we are to believe that Russia is responsible for this. Now, of course, the US government did chime in on this. The United States determined under the Chemical and Biological Weapons Control and Warfare Elimination Act of 1991 that the government of the Russian Federation had used chemical or biological weapons in violation of the international law or had used lethal chemical or biological weapons against its own nationals. Now, as I've said, there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever that Russia was actually behind this attack, and it varied. I really hate to use the term false flag, but that seems like exactly what is going on right now. Now, I did do a very detailed video about this whole incident several months back, which go into a great amount of detail describing why it's actually in the UK's interest to actually done it, and I think I put forward a pretty good case as to why the UK is actually responsible for this and not Russia. Now, of course, the announcement of these sanctions was welcomed by London, and they have expressed gratitude and support for the U.S. for bringing out these sanctions which have been instituted by Washington. Now, some of the measures that are going to be used against Russia are banning licenses for the export of sensitive national security goods to Russia, which this usually means that in the past exports are said to have included items like electronic devices and components, as well as test and calibration equipment for avionics. In other words, they're going to try to sabotage the Russian aviation industry as payback for an attack that they didn't actually commit. Now, this also includes things like downgrading diplomatic relations, banning the Russian airline Aeroflot from flying into the U.S., and cutting off nearly all imports and exports. In other words, what we're seeing is once again the very typical sanctions that we see that the U.S. has placed against many countries for simply not bending to its will. We could most definitely point to the example of the situation with the Iran nuclear agreement that the U.S. withdrew from and put sanctions on, despite the fact that Iran had been in complete compliance with the agreement. But once again, we're seeing the same thing. We're seeing Washington ratchet up pressure against Russia, despite the fact that we are supposed to believe that somehow Russia is controlling Donald Trump. The reality seems to stand in stark contrast to what the liberals and the liberal-leaning media have been telling us. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.